there, this is going to be just a brief tutorial on getting started with your cross stitch. You have a sampler coming up, and I would like to kind of introduce some of the key supplies and techniques for beginning. To begin with, you will need to have a hoop, which is here, Aida cloth, which is here, an embroidery needle right here. You can see it's got a longer eye in it. It's not too long. And then some embroidery floss. I'm going to be using some variegated embroidery floss to make a small pattern based on this larger pattern here. The Aida cloth that I'm using is 14 squares per inch. That's just how they sign it or regulate it. And this pattern is 10 squares an inch. So I know from this corner to this corner there's 47 squares. And partway up the pattern with this little arrow right here, you can see where it starts, and it is at 35 squares. So to begin a counted cross stitch, you go into the middle of your pattern and begin there. To identify the middle of your cloth, you will fold your Aida cloth into 4, which is like this. You fold it once here, and then a second time here, and then identify the center point right here. With that, you can use a pin, a dot. I have a little pin here that I've stuck a bead on the end so I can easily see it. Or you can use a erasable pen. This one here is called Friction, and it can be erased literally with a hairdryer or warm iron, not a hot iron. So I'm just going to mark the center of my cloth there. To mark that point. Then you'll put your Aida cloth into your hoop underneath. I have tape wrapped around this to keep it from slipping. And then I put this over top and secure it with the second ring. So after that is set, we have, you're going to determine the number of strands you're using. I would recommend starting with 2 strands where you're carefully separating your floss, which comes in a 6-strand bundle. And then, so if you have a bundle that looks like this, a little skein, you can then take it apart into from the 6 strands down to 2. From there, you begin your stitches. You thread your thread, cut your thread a length about from your hand to your elbow. So it's about 30 centimeters or so. Not really much longer than that, because then it becomes unmanageable and you can quickly develop tangles. So the next step, I will show you some stitches. On the pattern that I'm using, I've identified the center starting square using these 2 arrows to identify it, and then going up with a ruler and a cross. And I know that my first stitch that I will make, I will begin on this row above. And it goes space, space, and then a stitch. So I will go up onto the center of my Aida cloth, space, space, and then I will do a stitch. So I've moved my needle in through the back, coming up 2 points to the right of the starting point, and I have no knot at the back of my work. What I'm going to do is pull it through and then keep it intact as I'm stitching over the tail of the thread. Here, and now I've gone 2 stitches down, and I'm on my second half stitch up. I do the 1 angle from left to right, lower to upper, as I'm going across in the row, and then I'll cross back to go over those same stitches a second. Regular stitches through the top, and when we look at the back, you can see they are straight stitches, and I'm going to be gradually working over this tail piece with my next stitches that I'm doing as a crossover at this point. I have completed this one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches here, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's the front of the work. And if we take a look at the back of the work, you can see that they are not crossing over but going perpendicular to each other. And this is a gradual process of following and counting your stitches. This one is a printed pattern, but you can make your own patterns. Let me just show you what that would look like. Here we have a blank sheet, and you can create your own pattern on this. And this is on the website linked on the slideshow, and you can use your own markers, pens, paper to create your own pattern, and then to follow that pattern onto your Aida cloth. Conversely, you can use a direct method and just use your pen to sketch out the work and following the stitches in an orderly manner, doing your cross stitch directly onto the Aida cloth. It's up to you. Have fun with it. So I'm going to continue with my pattern here with this center. Let me just move this here. With this center part of the heart, and you can see I've got my needle here going up to that center one, and I will go up and across and down. I'm feeling at the back of the cloth for the needle and guiding the needle coming back up. So I'm holding it with my left hand and then moving it with my right. So going down there. So now I've finished that one piece, and I'm going to go up and mirror it with the other heart part of this heart. So I'm not always counting, but I know that the stitches will all match up because this is a symmetrical pattern. So I'm going across one, back, and up through this little hole here. And then down that one. And then I'm going to go actually back down again to finish these cross stitches off to crossing over. It's a bit of a challenge to have a camera between me and my work, but it is what it is. All right, so we've got those pieces there. That piece. So now I need to go across two more here. 1, 2, and then one more up in the middle. So I'll go up. We actually repeat a lot of the times going through the same holes repeatedly, so it's kind of nice to have this extra space in the Aida cloth to be able to do that. So there we have 3 stitches. Those are called half cross stitches. As you can see, they've only gone one direction. And with a petty point, you do a lot of half cross stitch and continental stitch, which actually look much the same, but they're formed a little bit differently. So there's one completed cross stitch and another one. And now I'm going to go up in the middle. So I'm backing over, back into this hole here and going up. And then I'm going to go across here and down to the left. All right, so then I've got this 3 space here in the middle between these stitches, 1 space, 1 space. And now I need to come down here and then across. So in order to do that, I'm going to turn my work over, and I've got a few threads I'm not happy with. I will trim them, but I'm also going to slide my needle through in order to lock it in place and then cut it off. And that's exactly what these nice little thread scissors are for, is to kind of keep the work all nice and tidy. Don't use big scissors, and only use these scissors, these thread scissors, for threads. All right, I'm going to leave that for now and hope you have good success with your first forays into cross stitch.